So how much does it really cost to run an electric vehicle? There's been an awful lot of rubbish put out there about how much it costs to actually run an electric vehicle. Now, I've had my Tesla Model Y for 22 months and I have literally just clicked over the 30,000 kilometre mark. So if we just take a look here, we can see that it's done 2 kilometres more. That was some delivery kilometres in there. And I have averaged 146 watt hours per kilometre, or 14.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres. So I'm going to take that as the basis, but I'm going to round it up to 150 watt hours per kilometre, or 15 kilowatt hours per 100k. Now mine's a rear wheel drive Model Y. I was doing about the same in my old Model 3. It was around the 150, 149 mark, I believe. So, look, I mean, I've had those now for 5 years in 2 months, the total owning. So I've got a good idea how much it can actually cost. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run through what it actually cost me and what it could have cost if I'd have just done everything on supercharging or fast DC chargers or whatever. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so I'm going to assume a couple of things here. Firstly, these are all Australian dollars. And when I compare it to the cost of petrol diesel, I'm going to average that out at $2 per litre. It varies here from $1.70 to $2.20 something. We've got this stupid price cycle that goes up and down, but I'll average it out at $2 because that's roughly what you're going to pay. And then I can show you the equivalent in litres per 100k for costs. So let's bring up my calculator. So I've done 30,000 kilometres. My actual costs have been in the region of $650. So let's just put that into perspective. I'll make it $750. So $750, 30,000 kilometers is 0.025 cents per kilometer. Or if we want that per 100 kilometers, that's $2.50 Australian per 100 kilometers. So that's only 1.25 litres equivalent per 100k. Now that's my actual costs, and I've over exaggerated it there. Yes, I've had insurance to pay. I had a flat tyre needed replacing. I had a bust windscreen which needed replacing. You're going to get that with all cars, insurance, etc., wear and tear. And this is purely on the running costs. So $2.50 per 100k is my actual costs. And it worked out to be less than that when I had the Model 3. Now, I do have the advantage of having solar and battery at home, and the car is literally sitting in the garage charging off the solar panels at the moment. So that's my cost at the moment. Now, if I work on 15 kilowatts per 100k, and we'll go to the most expensive form of electricity that I found around here, and that's 68 cents per kilowatt hour. That was at Tesla superchargers. And I think some of the faster DC chargers, which I don't go to because they will supply 350 kilowatts, my car will only take 170, so it's a waste. But at Tesla superchargers, if I only charged at Tesla superchargers for the whole time, this would work out to be $10.20 Australian per 100 kilometers. So that's the equivalent of about 5.5 litres per 100k. So not too many cars in the Model Y size will do 5 litres per 100k. I did have an MX-5 once, that was some years ago, and it was stated that it would do 6.5 litres per 100k. Yeah, well, you're never going to get that. I got around the 8. So MX5, it's about the same. I did have a Mitsubishi Outlander FEV before I went fully electric 5 years ago. Now that was stated at 1.7 litres per 100k. Now I was running that 70% of the kilometres that I did, it was running on pure electric, and it still worked out at around 3 litres per 100k. So yeah, that would be cheaper, but this price here of $10.20 is based purely on supercharger prices. Now, some of the other chargers around here charge around the 45 cents. 45 cents per kilowatt hour. $6.75, about 3.5 litres per 100k. So even if I use the DC charger that's down the end of the road that charges about 45 cents, and on some of them I also get a discount because I'm a member of RACWA, and I get a 20% discount, which brings that down to about 36 cents. That's still very reasonably priced. Now that is purely using just fast DC chargers that are charging about 45 cents. So if I'd have used my home electricity, which during the day costs me 30 cents, that is $4.50, which is, well, 2.25 litres per 100k. If I purely filled up from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m., which is my 30 cents. Now, there are different tariffs. This is the tariff I've got. And the tariff when I charge my car, which if I'm not charging off the solar panels, I will charge at night. So 15 litres per 100k, that is 20 cents per unit or kilowatt hour, which is $3. 1.5 litres per 100k equivalent. Now that's charging it up at night. That is the only time I actually pay for any electricity. I've charged in the Model Y once at a Tesla supercharger and once or twice at a DC charger. So that's why my costs are around the $650 for the 30,000 Ks. So I charge mine at night. I tend to do that a bit more now. It's winter in Australia, so there's not much sun. There's a lot of sun at the moment today, which is why it's charging the car. So with this charging during the day, that's what it would have worked out to be, $3 per 100 kilometers, which is about $900 for the 30,000 that I've done. Sorry, that's charging at night. Now, if I'm charging today, as I am doing, I am losing my feed-in tariff. So any spare power that I've got is going into the car, not out to the grid. My feed-in tariff is a humongous 7 cents a kilowatt hour. So 15 kilowatt hours times 0.07 comes to $1.05. That is basically what I've charged my car 90% of the time. So $1.05 per 100k, which is half a litre per 100k, which is nothing. Now that's not money that I've had to spend, it's money that I haven't got back on my electricity bill with the feed-in tariff. And I tend to charge my car during the daytime hours when the sun's shining. I also, when I'm going shopping up at the shops, there's free chargers there when I can get in on them. There's a couple of nice people who go there and charge for 6 hours because it's free. That is just fucking rude. There's another guy who's there for at least 2 hours every day. You look on PlugShare. Now, he has the decency to put it in on PlugShare, And I have messaged him, and he's gone and plugged my car in, parked next to him when he's left, which was very decent of him. But he's there for 2 hours just about every day. That's fine. I'm there for an hour when I go, which is about twice a week. So $1.05 per 100 kilometres. So look, running an EV is very cheap. So over 30,000 kilometres, let me just bring that back up. If I multiply that by 300, because that's the cost per 100k, gosh, 315 kilometres. As you can see, that's what I've done mostly. The extra $300-400 on top of that for my charging is I have charged at night a bit, and I've charged a few times at a charger that I have to pay for. But even so, that's not quite 2 years. I've had this car 22 months. So let's say that goes up to 350. That's only $175 a year for 16,000 kilometres, give or take a bit. Petrol. So it's cost me $315, give or take. Petrol at $2 per litre for 30,000 kilometres. Once again, it does depend on your fuel efficiency, but for a 5 litres per 100k, so if I work it on 5 litres per 100k, we've got 300 lots of 100k, and at 5 litres per 100k, that's 1,500 litres times 2 is $3,000, 10 times the cost. And that's for 5 litres. Now, model Mazda MX-5, it's about the same size. Now, getting around 7 to 8 litres per 100k with that. So if we just look at that, we'll make it 7.5. Okay, 2,250 litres times the $2 is $4,500. Yeah, okay. Compared to 300, or let's say 600-700, that's still a lot more expensive. Now, if you go up to 10 litres per 100k, which is what a large number of four-wheel drives do, you're looking at $6,000. That's 10 times the price again of what it actually cost me. So, all up, EVs are cheap to run. Now, yes, they do cost a bit more in the early stages, but if it saves me, on average, over each year about $2,000, after 5 years of owning the car, that saved me $10,000 in fuel. Most EVs now are getting very close to being let's say $10,000 more expensive. So after keeping your car for 5 years, you've broken even with what your ICE car was. Now, if you go and buy something really quite reasonable, like an Aura Cat, which at the moment here in Australia is $35,990, drive away, certainly is here in Western Australia, what can you get that's equivalent? Well, most of the cars with the same equivalent are actually more expensive than that. With my Model Y, as I've said, we're looking at, MX-5 Mazda or something similar. You're looking at, to get the equivalent of what I've got in my Tesla, about $50,000, give or take. Mine now comes down to about I think it was $65,000 on the road here in Western Australia. but I've got a much better car. So all up, I do believe that electric is the way to go. And stop listening to all this rubbish about how expensive they are. Even if my Model Y works out at a few $1,000s more over a 5-year period than running an equivalent car in the petrol version, I have not chucked out a heap of pollutants out of the back end. I have fueled it basically from the sun. When I go down to my shopping centre, they got 1.2 gigawatts of solar panels up on the roof. 1.2 megawatts, not gigawatts, megawatts. They're charging the cars there free of charge off the sun. So look, it works out very, very reasonable. So there you have it. EVs are definitely cheaper to run. And if you buy some of the less expensive models compared to the Teslas, you're going to be better off after 5 years than you would have been driving around in your petrol heap of polluting stuff. So all up, get an EV. I'd like your comments below what you think EVs cost, what you are experiencing with your EV in costs of running it. And I'm talking just fuel costs here, not insurance and so on. They're all standard costs that you get. For example, the insurance on my Model Y over 2 years has been about $2,000. Prior to that, I did have BMW X5, and they were costing $2,500 a year to insure. So it is a bit more expensive, but I've got my car on a agreed value because I've got PPF and certain paint colour and so on. So mine was up in the high 80s agreed value. I can probably bring that down a bit when it's up for renewal in September. So let me know in the comments below what you're experiencing in costs wise. So comments below. Now while you're down there, look, there's a like and subscribe and a bell button. If you could click those, it costs you nothing, but it really does help the channel and it helps me. So thanks very much, and I'll see you all very soon.